Welcome, everyone. So we're going to be chatting about crypto and AI and what's the impact on crypto overall. So initially, let's just start with very brief introductions, and then we'll get into questions and hopefully make it interesting for you guys.
Hi, I'm Diego Monica. I co-founded a company called Anchorage Digital, and most recently I became the GP at Hon Ventures.
Hey guys, so my name is W. Wan and has been to Token since the first one, and so running Primitive Ventures, and that's not a VC firm, but we write VC checks, and it's a multi-strategy investment firm and zero outside capital, so we do all the things that's weird for 10 years.
My name is Eric Wall. I was a computer scientist, maybe I still am, and then I ran a crypto hedge fund for a while, and now I'm the founder of Taproot Wizards, which is making Bitcoin magical again. That's it.
Hey, I'm Suna Amaz. I run Volt Capital. We focus on crypto companies at the earliest stages across both infra and consumer. Before starting Volt Capital, I started a company that is now on deck, and before that, I was actually in big data and AI during the dark ages at a company called Elation, which is now a $2 billion company.
Thank you for the introduction. So let's just get started with the first question, just to warm things up a little bit. So crypto overall, it's ultimately fight for attention. A lot of crypto projects are fighting for attention of one another, layer ones, layer twos, DeFi projects. It's ultimately how many users can we actually get, how many people can we be interesting to. Now there's also AI, and obviously AI has been around for a while, but over the last 2 years, it's been one of the main topics of discussion everywhere, not just at crypto conferences, but everywhere. So how is that shift of attention on AI affecting crypto? Maybe we can kick off with Eric.
Well, I think it's changing it dramatically, right? You saw, what was it, Sandeep raised $85 million in a seed round for an idea that he had with Sreeram that was kind of off some random idea, and 85. So the hot ball of money is kind of shifting a little bit from crypto into AI. And I mean, it's understandable. We're making ass coins, and they're making super intelligence. We're making ass coins, and they're making super intelligence. Where would you rather be? Where do you want to put your money at? So a lot of the crypto projects are either a lot of them are going to become AI projects. You see Near, for example, more heavily profiling themselves as an AI. I know they were already, from the beginning, always AI slanted, but it's the main thing with Near, right? And you had, what's the Super Intelligence Alliance, the FET coin, a bunch of coins went together and we're an AI coin. So I think you're going to see more of that. And I think that you're also going to see, the lucky thing that we have is that some AI project, because if you think we're in an intelligence explosion, you're going to need that fast liquidity for your project. So you might see some AI projects that could stay just being AI projects, but if they want to give liquidity back to their investors before the whole world goes apeshit, then they might have to go into crypto so that they can get that fast exit liquidity. So the one thing that we can provide for this industry is fast exit liquidity. That's what we can do.
Suna, I saw you disagreeing a little bit. Do you disagree?
Oh, that's the cynical interpretation, and the more generous interpretation. I mean, there are quite a few. So, one, fundamentally, you cannot achieve superintelligence or AGI if you cannot pay your engineers. And in many countries, look at what's had the strongest PMF so far. Obviously, meme coins have had mind share, but in terms of dominating market share, it's stable coins. And going back to the basics of this fundamental, let's fix the money, fix the world, which has dropped off a little bit recently and because of some of the distractions with meme coins, is fundamentally the order of operations is be able to pay people to work on interesting projects. That's fundamentally the order of operations. And so crypto is a very important driver for that. Secondly, Eric is right that it provides not even fast liquidity, a liquidity avenue. Look to the most recent exits in AI. Look at inflections. It wasn't even an M&A, it was more of an LNA. It was a licensing and acquisition while Microsoft had their shares in the company. The amount of money a lot of these models burn per year, I mean, you're talking about hundreds of millions. The ability to have an exit that looks anything like we've seen over the last 2 decades is almost nonsensical to me. And there is an argument where one of the very few pathways to liquidity anymore is crypto. I mean, look at when Amazon was founded versus when they IPO'd 3 years later. Look at when Netscape was founded versus when it IPO'd 1994 to 1995. The only place you see that kind of timeline from origination to exit is crypto anymore. In general tech, it's now anywhere between 10 to 16 years because regulations have made it so difficult to IPO, because growth funds have supplanted the public markets. Like, you're seeing $20 billion private rounds because that's what the public markets used to do, and instead you have growth funds carrying that burden and carrying that weight. So in terms of squawking and being loud, sure, meme coins are this ephemeral, like temporary distraction, whatever. But you really, really, really need to refocus on the fundamentals. This is so fucking important.
Now, I think picking up on the fundamentals, at its most basic primitives, we can say that one of the things that we have that is working is general, Gen AI, the ability to be doing generative AI and creating content, creating images. And so at its most fundamental layer, Gen AI creates abundance. And what we've created here in crypto is creating digital scarcity. And so one creates digital abundance, the other side creates digital scarcity. So at its most base level, these are technologies that were actually made for each other in the sense of like covering for each other's weaknesses. And there's many such use cases. In AI, we have lots of problems with tracking who trained what on which model. We have a great mechanism, an indelible ledger to track IP. You have a shelling point issue in terms of coordinating a lot of these demand and supply for GPUs. There's markets that you can create in crypto that not only have better payment mechanisms with micro-cent transactions, but also have the ability of actually having incentives, the coordination and voting and governance for these markets to exist. So it's actually really, at my level, the way that I see this is we have a lot of solutions for a lot of problems that AI is creating. And even though right now most of it is narrative in terms of the things that are working, I think absolutely there will be many of these cases that will actually be solved by the primitives that all of you are working on right now.
Yeah.
Dovi, have you seen young people still interested in crypto as much as they used to be 3 or 4 years ago, or is AI taking away from that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think for like any like new founders or like any new like talents, and then so they will evaluate the industry from like 3 different like levels. The intellectual leverage that they can have, like the financial, it's like intellectual capital, financial capital, and then also human capital, right? I think for our industry, and it's that every cycle, like crypto can be just like forcefully combined with like any like new narrative, and then so for better asset liquidity probably, and then we are also investor in like Sentium, and so I can just like tell Eric like very, very transparently, because like when we are looking for founders, and then so we're only looking like crypto/AI founder. So I have been joking about my mental model that like crypto and AI is like arranged marriage. Like for like all the arranged marriage, like it can be a little bit cringe, like at the very beginning, but like once you have like 2 people in the room, and then so they have to figure out like who do dishes, and then so who do what, and then so now we are at that phase, right? So like that's what like AI and like crypto is. So when we see how we can invest in this intersection, like the founders that we are looking for is okay. For founder like Sandeep, right? No matter what he gonna do, like he can do dark coin, like whatever coin, like he can, like no matter what things that Sandeep gonna do, I gonna invest, right? So it's just about the founder and who knows like crypto so well, and then who has the hiring capability to complement the intellectual capital on like AI that like.
No, I don't disagree with that. I'm not saying it's a bad bet.
Lacking.
I'm saying it's a bad bet.
Yeah, right. So
I'm just saying that's where the hot ball of money is. That's. And sentient is basically a proof of that, and what you're saying is also like just reinforcing the same point.
Yeah, and then so when it comes to younger talent, right? So I really think like crypto for like this cycle has been triple kill, like first killed by AI, and then also like first killed by SBF and like 3AC and like all the fiasco, and then so now we don't even have like credit recovery yet. Like there's not enough like credit in the market, right? And like the second kill is by the AI. Because I quit San Francisco in like 2018, like because most of the crypto industry has been completely spread out. Like they are not in San Francisco anymore. When it comes to Web2 and then Silicon Valley, Bay Area, they have unfair advantages when it comes to talents, but when it comes to crypto, Bay Area and like Valley has like disadvantage, right? And then I went back to SF like for like past 2 years, and then so I live around Noe Valley, and it's every corner people are now talking about LLM. So I've been joking that this is like MLM for LLM, right? This is like a multi-level marketing for like LLM. It's like young people actually going back to the Valley. So like young people are looking for a few things like novelty, diversity, and then also wealth effect, right? Yep. So I think like for like this cycle, like the wealth effect is like definitely not as good as like the other domain. So I think there's definitely major distraction for like younger talent. But for like veteran founders, and I think they're more like methodical and they're more seasoned, and so they think about things like more strategically, and then so they would just like leverage like, so they would basically leverage like the best thing that like each industry can like offer.
Eric, you've been skeptical at crypto projects that are focusing on AI or trying to maybe spin the narrative as AI-focused coins or tokens. Is there any use case that you can think of where the intersection between crypto and AI could actually make sense, or do you just think it's never going to work? It's always just going to be something that AIs maybe use itself, but not something as part of a crypto project?
Yeah, so I actually do want to agree with Suna, what she said, that the stable coins and the payment rails infrastructure actually, we're going to need something to transact with regardless of whether or not we're in an AGI arms race. So I do think that she made some valid points there. The criticism that I've been raising against the AI project is that, so the reason that Bitcoin works, the reason that consensus mechanisms work, is that because we can verify the proof of work, right? If you want to build like a decentralized AI project where like everyone's adding their GPUs, you cannot verify AI computation unless you're doing it with like a trusted execution environment on like NVIDIA H100 chips. But grassroots movements don't have like a bunch of NVIDIA H100 chips that are nearly at the scale at the big tech players. So you're not going to get like foundational models out of grassroots movements. So you're not going to be able to compete in a decentralized way, at the way that the world currently works, with how the supply chains for the AI chips work. You're not going to get a grassroots movement making an AI coin that trains a model that is like more powerful than current models. So like fundamentally, you can't really compete with the incumbents, with the big tech. So you can't. But if you really wanted to do something with crypto and AI, I think that there are some things that we have that are powerful. Beyond just stablecoins, we have prediction markets. And prediction markets, what prediction markets are a cornerstone to feudarchy. So I don't know how many people in this audience that knows what feudarchy is, but it's a way to govern companies and even nations by using prediction markets to sort of peer into the future of which different outcomes are more likely. And if you, for example, have a liquid market that says, oh, well, the next GPT Model 5 is going to be like destructive, then you can use that to inform the board decisions at OpenAI. Well, okay, so maybe we won't release that model without more restrictions. So feudarchy is a way that you can, like, in a forward-looking, how the world works currently with the regulation is that someone does something bad and then we regulate that after the fact. But in this case, where we're building something like superintelligence or artificial general intelligence, we're going to have a more forward-looking type of regulation and self-regulation mechanism, and prediction markets are fundamental to that. So I think if you wanted to do some type of crypto AI project, then maybe look into prediction markets. That's where I would look. I would not look into, okay, we're gonna like compete with OpenAI on foundational models, because you're just never gonna get access to the same level of AI superclusters as those companies will have.
So I just feel like the criticism that you're bringing on is incredibly narrow. I think it's very easy to agree that decentralized inference makes no sense, and decentralized training makes no sense, and marketplaces that bring GPUs together are flimsy uses of crypto in the first place. There's just so much more that the technology itself can actually support. The use of indelible ledgers, the ability to actually prove, the coordination points itself. Crypto is the ability to coordinate agents that don't trust each other, they're mutually distrusting. And so that's what we've created. And to a large extent, what we're about to unleash on the world is agents that have their own independence and capability of operating. And so it just feels like there's so many applications that are not decentralized inference, decentralized training, or even marketplaces, which are the three ones that you said that don't make sense, which I agree, they don't make much sense.
Yeah, and to be sure, many projects these days aren't pitching that anyway because they concede, as Eric said, they aren't going to be as performant, largely because of physics and latency issues that we just can't override yet. But some of the use cases that are being pitched, and fundamentally one of the most important ones that I think the majority of crypto space is missing, at least a lot of investors I talk to, is data being the bottleneck. So in terms of data hygiene, in terms of how much data we can actually use that's publicly available. I mean, you have some teams working with Unreal Engine just trying to generate data. Synthetic data is probably one of the most slept on narratives in crypto, not in Web 2, where majority of them working in AI understand how important it is, but within crypto, I can probably point to only one team, maybe two, First Batch / Drea definitely working on this. And it's this idea that as our models get more sophisticated and as we have more use cases that we need to apply this AI to, we're going to need different types of data and we're going to need a lot more of it. So that is one where using crypto actually allows you to streamline not only incentive for garnering the data, but incentive for making sure that you are practicing good data hygiene through slashing and incentivization mechanisms built into the network. You also have interesting use cases around federated learning, which allows you to update models, or at least share params, weights, et cetera, while running them on local devices. This is massive for healthcare use cases, right? Where a lot of that data is pretty sensitive. I think almost every single dollar that was invested into FHE plays this cycle should have been invested in federated learning crypto plays, because that is one of the most obvious and ambitious but practical, grounded in the reality of what we can actually deliver on in this cycle over the investing time horizon that needs to be realized in, because you're able to get rid of that central point of failure, which is the central pool that these weights are uploaded to. So we've moved beyond a lot of these use cases that we were feeling around in the dark, trying to figure out what could crypto AI be. And that's a lot of venture investing, that's a lot of tinkering and iterating, is opening up the adjacent possible as to what actually makes sense here. And in terms of where the puck is going, those two, and I've been going on for a while, so I'll maybe open this for another discussion, maybe later in the conversation, but robotics, which is the embodiment or substantiation of AI. Like, we built the brain, time to build the body. There have been actually very interesting crypto plays around the intersection of crypto and robotics.
Like, even just follow the stablecoin mental model, right? Like, stablecoin is not competing with like US dollar when it comes to as an asset. Like, stablecoin is just like competing with like US dollar for accessibility. I think, so the thing for, where we can see the best like union point when it comes to like crypto and AI, I think people in US and like they just don't have this first-hand experience, but ChatGPT is not accessible in Middle East, and then so in many part of like Europe, and it's not accessible in like China, right? So it's not even accessible in like Hong Kong. So I think like crypto has been making accessibility global. So that's always the case, right?
Okay, so can I just really quickly ask a question?
Yeah.
So I similarly, at least at first, was like, okay, if you want to use LLMs or not CCP approved, like this is a good way to be able to do that. But they're all open source anyway. So is crypto actually solving that?
I was about to say that, because we have to see two trends, and then the first trend has been magically, like drastically improved, like when it comes to like Llama 1 versus like GPT-3, right? Like GPT-3 basically beats like Llama 1 in like all the dimensions, like all the benchmarks. And now we have like Llama 3, right? And Llama 3 and GPT-4, and then so I think like GPT-4 is still better, but like not that like order of magnitude better, right? So then where is like crypto coming into the place? like given now we have this open source model that can have like on-par performance, like efficacy, and with like local compute, right? So with like local compute and like edge compute, and then so with like using like token as like a growth driver, and then so you can actually bypass like all the censorship potentially. So like that is our mental model when it comes to like how crypto can potentially solve this accessibility issue, like just like stablecoin solve that for like US dollar.
But do you need crypto to build a VPN?
Like VPN has nothing to do with crypto.
If you wanted to be able to access things that you cannot because of your
so like
jurisdiction,
there are
cannot
like
VPNs
so like 3 choking points, and I don't think crypto will ever solve, right? Like App Store, right? Just like iOS like App Store, like that's not gonna solve by crypto. Like CDN, like content delivery, so like CDN content delivery network, like not gonna be solved by crypto. Networking, like not gonna be solved by crypto. Yeah, so we're not talking about those are the things that are not gonna be solved by crypto anyway.
Right, I'm just saying, like, if you say that, well, China can't access ChatGPT, well, and we need something crypto related to bridge
so like
that
it
gap,
has to be
I'm saying,
local
well,
compute,
then you're
right?
competing with VPNs.
No. It's like an edge compute. So I basically have my model like running on my own phone, right? So I'm not even using so I'm not even using any like cloud inference, right? Yeah. So like those are the things that, and I think is actually.
Yeah, but you don't need crypto to like open source LLMs.
Yeah, so like crypto is not solving LLM, but like crypto can potentially solve like the adoption issue, right? So then why people should shift from Baidu to my local GPT?
That's right. Also, if you think about it, Google's internal memo when they talk about OpenAI has no moat and neither do we, which was a very similar tune that Zuck was writing in the manifesto when they shipped the most recent Llama update. It's this idea of like how really do you compete when they're all open source and they seem to be commoditized. And if you think about it, financialization of it, like actual incentives behind what you use and what you contribute to. I mean, we've been playing in that sandbox, figuring out how to monetize and financialize and incentivize open source projects for the past decade. So crypto builders have a huge leg up in terms of figuring out how to capture value and incentivize both users and contributors in this new era.
Well, the open source, so while I respect like the open source local model paradigm, and I think it's interesting, I think what you're going to see is that all of these big tech players are going to improve their algorithmic capabilities in how they build these models. And yeah, they may share their weights with you, but when you interface with a model, you're going to get a lot better, cleaner experience when you actually communicate with like the meta AI. They're not going to open source all the different things that they're doing on the back end. So yeah, while they might outsource like some of the model, you're not going to get as powerful of an experience as you do when you interface with them directly, because they're going to want to maintain like an economic hold of this technology. So they're not going to give you the entire keys to the kingdom. They will open source some stuff to sort of invite the open source community to build stuff based on that. But it's not like they're going to open source it for all of us, and it's going to be fine that way. We're still going to be
probably an argument for for crypto open source plays. That's
yeah, but we're not going to be able to train open source
and
models.
And that's fine. And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be as exactly. It doesn't have to be as performant enough. If you can't even, if your problem is accessibility, then you'll make the trade-off for performance.
I think you'll just get a VPN and then you'll interface.
But I mean, at a minimum,
AI.
It's another tool in the toolbox of the cat and mouse game that is accessibility. Exactly. So maybe it will have utility, maybe it won't, but it's another tool around access. The other interesting side of this, by the way, is the places where AI will actually help crypto. And there's lots of cool, like little places where this is happening. I just saw one yesterday that I thought was pretty cool. So we have all these oracles that are injecting information on chain, and then we have humans doing the resolution when something is weird and when we don't actually agree what happens. For example, did Maduro win the presidency or not? Things like that. And so what they're doing, I saw there's this company called Chaos Labs, which we just funded.
Our portfolio.
That's our portfolio, shared portfolio right here. great work. And what they do is kind of an interesting one. It's like they use LLMs and they have these data sources, and the LLMs are ran in a deterministic fashion in a way that they actually decide the outcome of the thing that is injected on chain to do resolution of if the oracle went one way or another. So that's a cool use case. That is like a very simple utility of a concrete model that is ran in a specific way that gives this utility to crypto that came from AI. So it's kind of fun because we're always talking about how crypto can enable something in AI, when in fact, there's lots of these cool use cases in which AI can enable something in crypto.
I think like at the end of the day, like crypto and AI gonna be invisible, right? So they'll be just being completely abstracted out, and then so I think the fact that we are still debating about crypto and AI is like both of them are not being invisible enough. Right, so if like they're completely invisible because like traditional ML has been used by all this like, email spam filtering and all that, blah blah blah, right? Like those are also AI as well. Like they're completely invisible and like used like every day. And I think we're still here debating. It's just like we don't have like the adoption is definitely not there. Like as Eric said, and then like the early PMF like might be there, and then so because Eric, like you mentioned that okay, LLM, like when it comes to LLM, so yes, I agree with you, foundational model like cannot compete with all the fan people, but when it comes to MLM, like median language model, not that MLM, and then also SLM, and I think it's actually possible, and then also like crypto is really good for like financialization. For imagine we have like initial coin offering, now we have like initial model offering for all these like small model like builder and like medium model builder, and then so that can actually just like take a chunk of like the economy. I think like that's also like a possible future as well, because we internally and then we deploy local transcript model because like we don't want to upload any recording to the cloud, right? And then so like we want to tip that specific model like open source model author, but like there's no way that we can tip because we use that every day, right?
I'll flip the page a little bit. We've been arguing here for a bit now. If we assume that AGI is near and eventually there'll be an AGI era, what do you guys think the impact on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of the other major coins will be? And more specifically, is there some difference between, for example, proof of work that we see with Bitcoin and proof of stake that we see with Ethereum, if we assume that AGI exists and is functioning?
Yeah, I'll take this one. If we go into an AGI arms race, an intelligence explosion, we should assume that this will become like a nation state core issue. Cybersecurity, warfare, it will be a military tool foremost, and it'll be used by for that purpose initially. So, and if China and the US are like competing, like who's reaching AGI or superintelligence first, it's going to look like the US versus Germany during the World War. And you're going to see a ramp up in investment into like creating more powerful models that might look like the race for nuclear power. So I think that it's very likely if the whole world like goes into a full-blown AGI arms race, you will see massive fiat printing at the scale of what we did in the Second World War, where you have countries like UK, US, and Germany, and France borrowing 100% of their GDP and massively inflating their fiat currencies. Also, the trade relationships break down because they're not in competition with each other. They can't trust each other anymore. And in that world, like, are you going to start like using gold? Gold where? Like gold in a specific vault in one of those countries when they're not trusting each other? No. So Bitcoin might become the only instrument that you can actually trade during the AGI arms race. But then you got to question yourself, well, is actually Bitcoin a good currency for that if Bitcoin's power usage is like 1% of an AI supercluster? If Bitcoin is like this fractional energy consumer compared to what the AI clusters are using, it's not even connected to the main arteries of energy in the world, then Bitcoin might start to look kind of weak because you could like easily overpower that. And if you say, well, it's not about the energy arteries, it's about where the chips are located, well, then think about this. So most chip farms, ASIC chip farms, are centralized in specific regions in Texas and somewhere in China and so on and so forth. But you have $500 drones destroying $5 million tanks in the Ukraine-Russia war right now. $500 drones destroying $5 million tanks. So if you believe that Bitcoin becomes the new infrastructure for commerce, for trade, those ASIC farm facilities are going to become targets for terrorism. And if you can blow them up with $500 drones, well, maybe proof of work is not the consensus mechanism that guarantees safety for this decentralized network. So I'm glad that I'm finally able to make like a bullish case for Ethereum and proof of stake based currencies. Like someone has to do that. Someone has to like, make a stand for Ethereum and proof of stake. And there's like, if you looked at the ETH-BTC chart, someone has to go in there and say, maybe AGI is going to be the saving grace for proof of stake based currencies. So maybe Ethereum has a chance there. That's what I think.
What probability do you assign to that scenario, Eric?
Let's do like a raise of hands. Like, who thinks that we're at the cusp of an intelligence explosion in this room? Like,
Oh, of
do you
course.
think
So
that we're
like, it
in
has
the
to be like time horizon wise, right?
and
It's
do
like 10. It's like in like a decade, in like 2.
let's say
just like put a timer
let's say
on it.
like who thinks that we're going to reach AGI within 10 years?
10 years.
Non-zero, yeah, non-zero chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just, this is so hard because, look, it's way beyond our event horizon. You cannot see. Let me just give you a counter argument. Why, with AGI, all blockchains are useless. Every 20 years, we go through a dramatic change in cryptographic primitives. If there's actually AGI, just needs to be 20 years ahead of current cryptographers to break every single hashing mechanism, signing mechanism, cryptographic mechanism that all these blockchains uses. They literally can make it useless. They can make, if you can break, it can create collisions of SHA-256. They can actually, fake history, and we can't actually govern ourselves anymore. And so that's why it's so beyond the event horizon, because if you truly believe it's AGI and it's much better than humans, then our cryptographic mechanisms are just screwed. They were made by humans. Computers are much better at attacking them.
Yeah.
So in that
think
version of the
they're-
world, blockchains are useless.
But there are some
There-
moments going into the event horizon where we're still gotta do something. So there's a small moment there, like between AGI and ASI, before like quantum computers break all the cryptography. That's where you gotta, why not plan for that moment? Like, get your bunkers.
That's where you get your 1000x
Well,
right
also
there.
like that's why I think like many of us are gonna just eventually become like longevity people, right? So it's like in between, if we can fix like longevity, and then so probably like we can fix like all the problem altogether.
So why don't we then ask the panel itself, do you guys think that AGI will happen in the next 20 years?
Way beyond my event horizon. I hate making predictions because I hate being wrong. That's my prediction. here.
It could, but even when it happens, we won't exactly know what it'll look like. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is some people like even assert like right now we have AGI or right now we have ASI, similar to quantum. It's just this idea of we also don't know if it will be malicious, if it'll be just superpowers subservient, making us more powerful. It's not social. Like computers are not social, so there may not be a drive for dominance or hierarchy in that way. It could just be a massively powerful computer. So I think it could happen absolutely in the next 20 years, but it's not so much the time frame as it is when it's here, what does it look like?
So I was looking for, so when you're talking about like the actual emergence of like AGI, so I was looking for only one thing. We invented playing. It is not because of like how we make like the bird's anatomy and then just try to see their bone structure, right? We invented playing better, can fly. So like we invented playing like which can fly better than the birds because we discover like aerodynamics, right? At the mathematical level, I don't think we have that thing yet for AI. So like that's also the reason why like OpenAI, like the way how they train model was not being very like appreciated by the academics because like they consider that as like a brute force. And so I think if we can figure out that simple and beautiful formula for AGI, whatever, and then so that's I will be thinking, oh hey, so we probably have to face that singularity. So for now, like that's why we spend a lot of time just like digging into like research and at the math level. We haven't seen anything yet there, and then like also currently like all the input is so it's just like text data, right? But the thing is that in order to create like AGI, you need to have like a word model, you need to have like spatial data, right? And so those are the things are still like far behind, and so like that's why I'm not too worried about in like 20 years yet.
To me, it sounds too bearish. I think that basically, AGI, the test we used to refer to was the Turing test. I think that AI today crushes
I think
Turing
like
test.
Turing test, yeah, but like Turing test was like 50 years ago, right? It's like, it's
Yeah,
so,
but that's when we sort of like, if it solves the Turing test, then we should really start worrying. And I think we're way beyond that point. I think arguably we already have something that looks kind of like AGI already today. I think that the path to getting something that's really AGI-like could be less than 3 years. I think that the timelines here are extremely compressed, and we know that neural nets are mathematically they are universal function approximators. There's a mathematical theorem from the 80s, from the 90s, that prove that with a neural net you can approximate any continuous mathematical function. Only thing that you got to solve is like how do you train that and how do you get the data for that. And I think that we're on the path of solving those problems. And I think with the most recent model, the 01 preview model, starting to generate that synthetic kind of data that helps create the synthetic data so that you can create GPT-5. So we're very closely getting to that path where you're going to get automated AI research from AI, and then you just like the inflection point just goes exponential.
So the premise is if we can like completely understand like neural network is that if we can decipher the brain. So like that is at least my assumption, but we are far from decipher.
We don't understand brain, we don't understand AI, but somehow they still evolve and they still emerge. This is the new life form that is emerging. It won't understand how itself works. We don't understand how we work, so we don't need to have it all figured out in order for it to happen.
Well, so in order to make like CRISPR work, and then you need to have a full genome, right? So like that's like so you always need to have this like sequence of like scientific event.
We know how to train AI models, but we don't know exactly how they work. But still, they go out and they solve problems in the world. In the same way that you don't know, you couldn't decode your own genome, but you could still go around and kill mammoths with spears. So you don't need to know how your own intelligence structure works in order for you to be generally intelligent.
Anyway, I'd love to talk about this for a lot longer, but we've run out of time. Appreciate so much the thought-provoking debate, discussion. Thank you so much for the audience. Yep, that's it.
Thank you, Larry.